This is Whitney Akers calling from the advisory board. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, considering it's the Monday after a holiday weekend. I'm actually doing very well. It's kind of nice to be back in the office.
Yeah, definitely.
After all that turkey, spending time with my family, I kind of got a little bit bored.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we had 30 people at my house, and I was in charge of making all of the dinner, so
Wow.
we're very, very busy.
30 people, oh my goodness. I hosted as well, but I only had 4 people, so you're probably a lot more tired than I am.
Nice.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you had a good holiday, and I appreciate your willingness to host me for our meeting coming up on the 13th. And if now's still a good time, I was hoping to use the next 30 minutes to just talk through some of your current priorities and how they align with the work that we're doing, walk through what we are as a program, and just determine the best agenda for our upcoming meeting to make sure that I'm making the best use of your time.
That sounds good.
Perfect. Okay, so before we get into your current focus areas, I'm hoping you can give me a sense of how familiar you are with the advisory board. And I know that you all have a number of memberships with us. You work with us through our Healthcare Advisory Board membership and a few of our performance technologies, but I'm curious how close you've been to those projects and if you're familiar with the Nursing Executive Center.
Yeah, well, we actually work with the advisory board in a couple of different areas across the hospital, and I've actually also been to some of your meetings, so I'm pretty familiar with the advisory board.
Perfect. Okay, so that's good to know. That's good background. Just to give you kind of a 2-second overview on our structure, because we have grown a ton in the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
We have expanded to serve hospitals in 4 primary ways, and I know that you all have exposure to us there at Memorial through our through our performance technology section, as well as our work within the research and insight space. We're also doing talent development engagements and consulting engagements as well.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the Nursing Executive Center goes, that specific membership falls within those Research and Insights programs, so where the Healthcare Advisory Board membership sits as well. And those are, it's one of 15 constituency-based research programs focused on supporting executives within their particular constituency or area of the hospital in really getting deep and tackling the areas that are the most pressing for you right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we can talk a little bit about what that looks like for nursing specifically, as well as what some of those resources are that we're supporting folks in. But at a high level, it's looking like analytic tools, research briefs, teleconferences, meetings, networking, really anything that you can think of to support organizations in tackling those challenges.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a high level. To get a little bit more deep into some areas of focus for you, I understand that Memorial, and talking to some of my colleagues that work with you all in other areas, you have a major cost-cutting initiative, as well as a focus on patient satisfaction. So I'm curious if that's correct, and I'm also interested, what strategy you're taking from a nursing perspective to support those initiatives, and how your current thinking around strategy, et cetera, has been affected by those goals.
Well, yes, we are actually under a major cost-cutting initiative right now. Our CFO rolled out that cost-cutting agenda, a strong one across all of the administration,
Mm-hmm.
and we actually need to save $10 million in 2014. So within nursing, I've looked into new staffing structures, and obviously I've also worked with HR to see what we can squeeze out of there, but it's really been tough, especially because at the same time, we have to improve our patient satisfaction scores.
Mm-hmm.
So our top box scores are very high. We've been working with Studer, actually. We use their EBL framework and have seen a lot of improvement there.
Mm-hmm.
So feel pretty good about that, but we would just like to see those numbers jump just a little more.
Yeah, no, completely appreciate that. That's very helpful background. In our work across the last year, we've actually found that those 2 priorities, so specifically patient satisfaction and cost cutting in general, are topping the list. So I'm not surprised at all to hear that that's an area of focus. As we have seen organizations really scrambling in light of cost increases, reimbursement shifts, case mix changes, payer mix shifts, all of that to maintain margins. And as nursing executives in particular are getting a lot of pressure to prepare the organization from a nursing standpoint, working with the largest portion of the workforce to create a model that is ready to compete in a value-based world. There are a couple of things in addition to those two focal areas that we have seen nursing executives shift to focus on. So I want to walk through those just briefly and get your thoughts on them and hear how they relate to your priorities outside of just the two that we've talked about. So first is bending the labor cost curve. So here, we're finding that a lot of folks have picked the low-hanging fruit, if you will, and there is a focus within our research this year that reaches far beyond just your basic labor saving strategies. So we're thinking about things like incorporating innovation on the inpatient staffing model, encompassing that skill mix management, new care delivery roles, insights around ensuring that your RNs are practicing at the top of their license. So we've done an entire body of work around how to bend the labor cost curve and really think creatively and outside the box around maintaining costs within nursing. The second area of focus is elevating frontline nursing practice, and folks are looking at this as a means to build a very strong foundation for the other initiatives that they're running. So specifically here we're thinking about ensuring that each individual frontline nurse is adequately equipped to provide that high quality, efficient care. And that could be focused on elevating critical thinking skills, eliminating that task-focused tunnel vision that we're starting to see as folks take on more technology. It could be things like accountability. We could even be looking at, again, top of licensed practice. So a whole portion of our research is focused around thinking about how we are building a workforce that is prepared and is equipped with the right skills and the right critical thinking and accountability to stand up to shifting care models, etc. And then the third area that we are seeing organizations really gravitating towards as far as their asks of us and our focal points is to think about how we can continue to improve quality. And that's obviously not a surprising topic, one that has been top of mind for nursing forever, but now that we have seen some shifts in the way that organizations are being reimbursed and paid, it's become top of mind for the CFO as well. And so we are thinking here about a number of things. So patient satisfaction scores, obviously a big focus point for us as well as you all. But beyond that, reducing nursing never events, helping organizations avoid readmissions, what's the creative things that organizations are trying out there around that. As well as helping nursing executives, and this is more on the progressive side, so I'll be curious to hear where you all are with this, but transition to a cross-continuum care model. So how you're thinking about that. So that's the third big focal point. So just to go back over those briefly, it's bending the labor cost curve, so thinking about the cost-cutting piece, really supporting organizations and elevating that frontline nursing practice, and then finally improving quality. So I want to pause here. These three areas seem like they're very highly integrated with your current goals that we've talked about, but are there priorities outside of the savings component and the patient satisfaction component that you feel like these research areas would be worth discussing further, and how does that approach align with yours?
Yeah, I think those are definitely of interest, but really what I want to talk more about is frontline practice. So we actually implemented Epic last year, and since then have felt like our nurses have way too much on their plate. We've needed them to adapt, and outside of patient satisfaction, we've not focused much on it, honestly. So I think critical thinking could be interesting. I think our training is good, but I'd be interested in hearing more of what you have there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't stress how important that is. Your thoughts on that are reinforced by the over 1,800 executives that we work with on a regular basis who are telling us that they really need that frontline group to be at optimal performance in order to be able to handle changes related to new care models, related to new technologies, etc. So absolutely happy to focus on that. It sounds like you'd see value in discussing our work specifically around the labor savings component, the patient satisfaction component, but a larger focus on that frontline nursing practice. And you mentioned critical thinking. So we have a really large set of resources on that I am more than happy to share with you. Just to give you kind of a teaser, some of that we have a diagnostic that we use. We have a toolkit that we use. We have some higher level structural best practices that are put in place at the organizational level that we use. So I look forward to bringing that and sharing it with you. Is there any other, or I would say, folks that you are working with on critical thinking at your organization who might also be interested in attending the meeting? We sometimes see, particularly that area, educators or folks from your training team, and not just that area. I mean, feel free to invite anyone who would be interested. But do you have other folks who are working with you on that, or the other priorities that might be interested in attending the meeting?
Yeah, no, and I think what you mentioned about critical thinking is exactly what we're looking for. I do have an education manager,
okay,
and she might be interested in this type of work, so she may be worth including.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm happy to work with my associate to make sure that we have materials sent over to her in advance as well.
Thanks, that would be great.
Yeah, not a problem at all. And feel free, sometimes when we're talking about labor savings, finance folks are interested, or we may see, folks from HR interested. Anyone who you feel like could be benefited by, information from executives across the country on best practices around this stuff, feel free to have them join us.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, it sounds like we have a lot to talk about. Is there anything that we have not covered in this conversation that is a major priority for you in your strategic plan for this year?
No, you really hit on the big ones, so let's just start with those.
Okay, perfect. I think we'll have a full agenda. I really look forward to discussing the applicability of the work in more depth. If the conversation goes well, which it sounds like it will, I want to make sure that I let you know that we do have a national meeting upcoming in January, and I know we haven't talked through all of our resources and what a national meeting is per se, but it's an opportunity for nursing executives across the country within our cohort to get together and network and also hear all of the research that we've done on the newest topics, which I just walked through. So it covers everything that you're interested in around labor savings, is around that frontline nursing practice and really elevating that. So it may be of interest. And it's actually, I know that you are in Fort Worth, and it's actually in Dallas in January. So if the conversation goes well, I think that could be a perfect opportunity to kick off membership. And we would be happy to secure a seat for you at that meeting if you can come to a decision on membership before the end of the year. So just something to think about as we're talking through timeline and understanding whether or not this is worth evaluating.
Okay, great. When did you say that was?
Yep, so the meeting's actually January 26th and 27th. And what I'll do in follow-up to this conversation is pass along the agenda so you can take a look at it. Feel free to share it with your team and see kind of what it would be, whether it would be worth attending.
Okay, and that would be helpful. How much does this cost?
So we'll talk about the full resource suite more in our meeting. The meeting itself, it's not an individual cost for our services. They're all in a comprehensive membership structure. And we typically do cost based on bed size and operating expense. So I have in my notes that you all are around 250 beds with an annual operating expense of $135 million. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. So now that I have that confirmed, what I can do in advance of our meeting on the 13th is I can go ahead and put together the pricing options, and I will be prepared to share with you then. Does that work?
Yes, that works for me.
Perfect. Okay, well, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk me through some of your focal points and priorities. Really gives me a much stronger sense of how to focus our time on the 13th. Just to triple check, I'm planning on being there from 2 to 3 that day. Is that what you have on your calendar as well?
Yes, and you can just come to the main lobby and call my assistant, Jackie. She'll come and pick you up when you get here.
Perfect. And parking, pretty straightforward?
Yeah, you won't have any problem.
Okay, wonderful. All right, well, thank you so much, Elizabeth. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to meeting with you on the 13th.
Okay, see you then.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.